revealed. Two spine-chilling true 4th of July horror stories that expose sinister secrets. The air buzzed with excitement as Tessa prepared for the 4th of July. Her quaint suburban neighborhood in Ohio thrummed with laughter, children darting through yards filled with sizzling conversations and warm barbecues. She blended into this vivid scene, a devoted mother juggling two energetic kids, 10-year-old Charlie and 8-year-old Lily, while her husband worked late. But the charm of this holiday was about to fade as dusk approached. Tessa felt a shift. The neighbor's fireworks display, once a joy, sent chills down her spine. The booms echoed like distant thunder, but there was something off. As children giggled, Tessa whispered with a friend, catching snippets of unsettling rumors swirling around. "Did you hear about the strange figures lurking by the park?" A neighbor whispered, eyes wide with fear. Something dark was brewing next door. Tessa rubbed her arms, clenching her jaw. Graffiti on the park sign caught her breath. "Freedom is a curse." The sizzle of sparklers around her felt more threatening than enchanting. Her heart raced as eerie chants floated through the breeze. Before she could dwell further, Tessa decided to visit the local police. As she walked through the old station, an officer chuckled, waving her concerns off with a dismissive grin. "Just fireworks, ma'am. You're overreacting. It's a celebration." She trudged home, frustration bubbling into fear. How could he not see? She imagined dreadful scenarios stacking like firecrackers, ready to explode. With a quick glance at her children, she masked her unease. She had to keep them safe. But as the night deepened, even the children's laughter took on a tainted sound a few blocks away. 16-year-old Michael felt a gnawing apprehension. He was wise beyond his years and had always been fascinated by local tales of hauntings. Observing the festival from a distance, he noted the oddness unfolding. A neighbor lighting an excessive number of sparklers, shouting bizarre cheers. His pulse quickened as he eavesdropped on whispered conversations, ominous exchanges laced with fear. "Tonight we show them," they sneered. Something was off in this town, and he could feel it. A sinking suspicion that the fireworks weren't just for flair but part of some twisted ritual. As the night of the fireworks arrived, tension crackled, pulling Tessa and Michael into a web of despair and confusion. Colors exploded across the sky, but the joyous celebration twisted into an eerie spectacle. The firework displays drove a stake of fear into their hearts as shadows danced under flickering lights. Terrifying smells wafted from hidden corners, leaving a sour taste in Tessa's mouth. The fireworks exploded louder, matching the hurried beat of her heart. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Tessa's heart was pounding louder than the fireworks above her. She glimpsed at Michael, who had appeared beside her, eyes wide with understanding. They both felt drawn to a gathering forming in the corner, shadowy figures chanting in a language that chilled them to their bones. The festive laughter had morphed into something sinister. Where there had been freedom, now lay thick malevolence. Tessa and Michael stood at the chaotic edge of celebration and horror. They needed to decide. Confront the truth behind the pyrotechnic facade or escape before the darkness consumed them whole. And as strange voices rose like smoke from the pyres of celebration, they knew their lives would never be the same. The chant echoed through the night, piercing their hearts. "Tonight, we reclaim our freedom." The sickening chant hung in the air, wrapping around Tessa and Michael like a thick fog. Every beat of her heart matched the rhythm of the voices, dark and penetrating. They exchanged a look, a silent agreement that they could not stand idly by. Something terrible was happening tonight, and they could feel it crawling beneath their skin. "Let us go," Tessa whispered, dragging her son away from the gathering. But Michael hesitated, drawn in by the sinister energy pulsing through the crowd. He turned his head, curiosity clashing with dread, as he watched cloaked figures tossing jars onto the ground, shattering them with sickening crunches. Each explosion of glass seemed to fuel the fervor of the chanting. "Michael!" Tessa's voice shrieked, her tone sharp enough to slice through the air. She grabbed his arm, pulling him away from the spectacle. "We need to get Charlie and Lily. Now." Michael blinked rapidly, caught between the thrill of discovery and the fear curling like ice in his belly. "But what if there's something happening we don't understand? What we don't understand could get us killed," she hissed, her grip tightening on his arm as she moved toward where the children were playing at the edge of the celebration. The carefree laughter felt like a jarring contrast to the malevolence swelling behind them. They spotted Lily, her face smeared with chocolate, dancing with other kids oblivious to the danger. Charlie kicked a soccer ball, blissfully unaware. Tessa's heart swelled with gratitude, but a dark thought shadowed her relief. How long before that innocence was shattered? "Kids, time to go," she called, urgency lacing her voice. Disappointed faces turned toward them. "But Mom, the fireworks," Charlie protested, eyes wide as he pointed to the sky, where sparks danced in sprays of red and gold. "No, please trust me. We have to leave," Tessa insisted, her pulse racing as the chanting escalated, becoming almost a roar, with hesitant steps. The children approached, and Tessa felt an unseen hand clutching her throat. The ground beneath them throbbed with energy, heralding something unspeakable. The crowd's excitement morphed into a fevered frenzy. The figures in dark cloaks now lit torches, their flames flickering with a life of their own. Shadows leapt and twisted, engulfing the revelers in an ominous dance. As the firelight flickered, Tessa saw faces strange, distorted, locked in expressions of ecstasy and torment. "Move," Tessa urged, propelling her children away from the grip of the chaos. Sweat dripped down her back as she glimpsed over her shoulder. The figures had turned, their fearful chants directed at the sky in a feral crescendo. With every guttural word, the fireworks above dimmed, sucked into a dark maw. Suddenly, a deep silence fell. Every laughing child, every shouting adult halted mid-movement, as if they were frozen in time. Tessa's heart dropped. "What's happening?" she whispered, dread coiling tight in her gut. Just then, the ground trembled, cracks splitting the pavement near the park. Dark shapes surged forward, seeming to pulse with shadows. A terrible figure broke through the last line of celebration, eyes like burning coals, a gaunt face twisted in a mirthless grin. "It's time to honor the old ways," it hissed, voice like grinding stone, sending a chill down Tessa's spine. Michael recoiled, clenching his fists. "We need to run. Now!" But as they turned to flee, the world around them crumbled into chaos, and their escape path vanished under a blanket of darkness. Tessa could feel Michael's panic, could see the horror in her children's eyes, but terror kept her feet glued to the ground. Amidst the cacophony, the chants rose again, a fever pitch that drowned everything else. Reclaim your freedom, unleash the fury they were trapped. The celebration turning into a nightmare unfolding right before them. And as the shadows closed in, Tessa wondered if they would ever see dawn again. Every instinct screamed at her to fight, to find a way out, but what if the only way out was to face the dark truth behind the twisted freedom promised by the night? What if escape wasn't possible at all? The ground continued to shake, pulsing like a heartbeat that quickened with each rising chant. Tessa's heart raced in tandem, a wild rhythm of fear thrumming in her ears. She tugged at Michael, who was still rooted in place, eyes locked on the dark figure that loomed before them. "Michael, now!" She could almost feel the heat radiating from the flames of the torches, the air crackling with something unnatural. The laughter of the children faded, stolen away by the nightmarish tableau unfolding in front of them. With sudden ferocity, Tessa yanked Michael's arm, and together they sprinted toward the only direction that seemed clear, the edge of the park, where trees loomed like sentinels, their branches clawing at the sky. The children trailed behind, wide-eyed and bewildered, darting past frozen figures who stared vacantly ahead, entranced. "Where's Dad?" Lily squeaked, her voice trembling, still sensing that something terrible was about to snap. Tessa couldn't answer as the sound of shattering glass echoed violently behind them. The cloaked figures continued their rituals, and the chant morphed into a shrill crescendo, drawing darkness down around them. "Just keep running," Tessa gasped, urging the kids on. They dodged around debris. The park's playground, once safe and welcoming, now morphed into a scene from a nightmare. The swings creaked, swaying gently in the wind, but there was no breeze. They stumbled into the shadows of a large tree, heartbeats hammering in their throats. Tessa crouched low, glancing around to ensure they were out of sight. But she could still hear the chant, that seeping tide of malignant energy, snaking around them. "They'll find us," Michael panted, collapsing beside her, fear painting his features. "What do we do?" Tessa felt panic lace through her chest, nodding tightly. "We have to find another way out. We have to stick together." Just then, a guttural scream tore through the night, piercing the air like an arrow. A shadow loomed around the tree, edging dangerously close. Tessa held her breath, a visceral dread rippling through her. She dared to peek around the trunk, and there it was, a figure, its head thrown back, mouth twisted in a mirthless howl. Menacing laughter began to bubble up from the cloaked figures, a dark response to the chaos erupting around them. The air seemed to shimmer. "Are they?" Lily's voice barely reached a whisper. "They're doing something. Something horrible." Tessa glanced at her kids. "We can't stay here." As she moved, a weight pressed against her chest, constricting her like a vice. The chanting continued to swell, words pulling at the very fabric of the night. Tessa's fingers fumbled for her phone. She needed light. She needed to see through the darkness. But as she fumbled, another crack sounded, this time closer. The shadows shifted, moments coiling tightly. With desperation, she turned on her phone. The dim light revealed something she never expected. Dark carvings etched deep into the gnarled tree surrounding them. Symbols she'd seen in old books. The same disgusting sigils she remembered from her studies about ancient rituals. "Mom, what does it mean?" Charlie asked, his voice shaking. Tessa swallowed hard but couldn't answer. Every instinct screamed for her to flee, but their way forward felt blocked and their past closing in. The feeling of suffocation grew with each beat of the chant echoing through the park. Suddenly, they heard heavy footsteps thudding closer, mixed with that horrible laughter. Panic squirmed within her, growing wild. "Closer to me," she ordered, pulling the kids against her. A darkness enveloped everything outside their small circle of light. A figure stepped into the beam, the very same one from the gathering, eyes like black pits glinting with malice. "You cannot run from the whispers, they will find you." Tessa could only stare in horror as the figure raised its hands, shadows spiraling around them. She could feel the air thickening, suffocating her, her thoughts dissolving into pure dread. And then, there came a voice, deep and commanding, from beyond the figure. Let the ritual commence, let the blood tide begin. The world around her spun out of control, the trees bending and warping as shadows danced grotesquely, wrapping tighter around her and her children. What had they stumbled into? As blackness closed in, Tessa wondered, would she and her family be swept away, consumed forever by the horrors that had awakened on this fateful night? With a final surge of adrenaline, she grasped the kids' hands, desperately searching for an escape. But the darkness was relentless, and just beyond the edge of the shadows, the hungry chant echoed in her ears, reverberating against the very fabric of her being. Join us, become one with the night. What awaited them outside this shroud of terror? Would they find salvation or succumb to the very darkness they fled? Fear twisted around them like a living thing, squeezing the very breath from Tessa's lungs as shadows leapt and twirled just out of reach. She gripped her children tighter, a human anchor amidst the chaos. With the chant reverberating in her ears, her pulse thudded against the encroaching terror. "Mom, I'm scared," Charlie whimpered, his small voice nearly drowned by the sinister rhythm of the darkness surrounding them. Tessa forced courage into her voice. "I know, buddy. Just stick close." As if sensing their fear, the figure loomed even closer, darkness swirling like a predatory mist. "The shadows crave warmth, crave life," it hissed, the words slick and caustic as they dripped from its tongue. Tessa felt icy dread shoot through her. "We have to move. Now." With a quick glance, she spied a flicker of light off to the left, a weak glimmer that almost teased her with hope. "Over there," she shouted, tugging the kids with her, their small hands slipping under her grip as they navigated their way through the cluster of trees. The chanting rose in volume, an angry tide crashing against their desperate flight. Behind them, the heavy footfalls quickened, sounding like a heartbeat amplifying with rage. Tessa glanced back, and her heart dropped. The cloaked figures were gaining ground, their gnarled fingers stretching toward her, almost grasping the very air she filled with her breaths. "Run!" she screamed, and they burst into the clearing she had spotted. They stumbled into a sudden opening, the moon casting a sickly glow across the grassy expanse. Around the edges of the clearing sat remnants of what once were playful picnic tables, now warped and twisted, as if the terror had seeped into the very wood. "What happened here?" Michael gasped, staring around in disbelief. Tessa barely had time to respond as the shadows shifted ominously, swirling like a storm. And then she saw a tree at the center of the clearing, large and ancient, with thick roots gnarled like fingers clawing at the ground, and symbols etched all over its trunk. It looked alive, pulsing as if resonating with the chanting, thumping in time with the frantic rhythm of her heartbeat. "Those symbols," Tessa whispered, a horrible recognition clawing at her mind. "It's a ritual," Lily finished. Her wide eyes glistened with tears. "Are we on a ritual site?" Before Tessa could respond, a wind howled through the clearing, carrying with it the chilling laughter of the cloaked figures, now visible as they filled the edges of the clearing, their faces marked by shadows, faces that seemed familiar. Tessa's stomach twisted violently. They were people she knew, neighbors, friends. The very faces that had once smiled at her across driveways and playdates were now twisted masks of mad delight. "Join us," they hissed as one, their voices fluttering like dark moths around her. "And become greater than you." Our panic surged anew. Tessa shook her head, her voice rising above the chilling chorus. "No, we won." The terror in her heart drew a protective surge from somewhere deep within her. If she could only break through their ranks, they could find out what this all meant. That semblance of hope propelled her again, and she darted toward the massive tree. Its twisted roots could offer a hiding place, a moment to reconvene. But as she surged forward, the figures began to sway, flowing closer together, tightening their grip. The branches overhead stretched, reaching down like skeletal hands, grasping her, pulling her toward the tree. "Let us show you the way," they crooned, voices dripping with deceitful allure. "No," Tessa cried, panicking as she felt the roots shift underfoot, wrapping around her ankles like snakes. Suddenly, Charlie screamed, "Mom! Help!" She turned her head, but in the confusion of the shadows, her children seemed to scatter, echoing voices mingling as her heart raced with despair. Each heartbeat thundered in her ears, as she fought against the growing darkness attempting to pull them into the depths of the earth. "Stay together," Tessa screamed, but it was drowned out by the laughter, a cacophony of madness urging them to join the ritual. Just as she thought they were lost, a piercing scream shattered the suffocating haze. A figure erupted from the throng, its eyes burning bright with desperation. "Run!" it shouted, before vanishing back into the shadows. Tessa's heart slammed against her chest. Every instinct declared fight or flight. But where could they run? What darkness awaited them? And what if they escaped this night only to find an even worse horror secreted behind the next sunrise? With terror flooding through her veins, Tessa knew they had to decide now. Would they challenge the shadows, or would they surrender to the madness? As she turned back to gather her children, the weight of impending doom hung like an anvil over them. The shapes shifted, aligning around the tree, and all that echoed in the air was a chilling chant. Join us, join us." What darkness awaited them in the moonlight? Or could salvation still be hidden beneath the growing shadows? Tessa's heart raced as shadows crawled ever closer. The chanting intensified, a maddening whirlpool of sound grinding against her ears. She yanked at the roots and snaring her ankles, but they held fast. Panic seized her throat, choking her resolve. "Lily, Charlie, she cried, her voice barely a whisper. A flash of movement caught her eye. There was Charlie, just beyond the edge of the clearing, his face pale, eyes wide with terror. Lily stood frozen, looking both ways as if she couldn't decide which way to go. Tessa's impulse surged, pulling her toward them. "Come to me," Tessa shouted, half stumbling, half crawling toward the children as if the very ground was against her, vibrating with dark energy. To her left, those familiar faces twisted as the figures shuffled closer, their features morphing into grotesque caricatures of the people she once trusted. Her neighbors, haunting echoes of laughter now turned sinister, were lost to the dark demands of the ritual. The chant pulsed through her head. Join us, no." Tessa screamed, a primal scream bursting from her lungs. The children mirrored her terror, fear flooding their eyes like an unyielding tide. She reached Charlie first, yanking him close. "This way," Tessa urged, pulling him toward the tree. "Hold my hand." They stumbled past the gnarled roots, fighting against the grasping shadows. But when she turned to get Lily, she was gone, lost in the churn of chaos. Tessa's heart stopped. "Lily!" she screamed, desperation clawing at her insides. The chanting reached a fevered pitch as the figures closed in like a noose tightening around her throat. "You must join," they crooned, "or you will be lost." Tessa's chest felt like a vice as the darkness pulsed, alive and hungry. She could almost hear the whispers of her friends, beckoning her, promising safety if she embraced the shadows. The pain of not knowing tore at her insides. "Mom!" Charlie's small voice quivered with dread. "What's happening?" "I don't know," she gasped, wrapping her arms around him tighter. "We have to keep running." The tree loomed ominously ahead, its roots curling upward like lightning-struck snakes. "We have to get behind it," Tessa urged. They sprinted, Charlie clutching her hand as if he might vanish into the darkness. But just as they reached the massive trunk, a shadowy figure lunged from the throng, grabbing Tessa's arm with a grip like iron. She froze, staring into the face of her former friend, eyes vacant and hollow. "Why resist? You can live forever." "No," Tessa screamed, wrenching free, eyes searching for Lily. The ground beneath them shuddered, throbbing like a heartbeat as the shadows pressed in. "Follow us," a voice shrieked from the depths of the dark circle. "You can't escape." Tessa pulled Charlie behind the tree, squeezing her eyes shut for a fleeting moment, heart hammering in her chest. The earth rumbled, and the air thickened like molasses. Could they really escape? What lay behind? Just then, a blood-curdling scream echoed through the clearing, the sound cutting sharp as glass through the chaotic voices. It was Lily. "Lily!" Tessa shrieked, her heart dropping. "No!" In the brief silence that followed, the chanting faded momentarily, as if the world held its breath. Tessa's eyes darted to the darkness, her mind racing. "Mom, I'm scared," Charlie whimpered again, his grip on her tightening. "Me too. But we can't let them take us, we have to fight." Tessa turned just in time to see a figure break from the dark ranks, the air crackling with tension as it moved toward them. It was Lily, but something was off. Her posture was rigid, her eyes blank. In one empty gesture, she extended a hand toward her mother, beckoning with the same hypnotic allure that had consumed the others. "Join the ritual. Tessa, it's better this way." The shadows swelled behind Lily, a mass of swirling darkness that seemed to breathe, hungry for life. Tessa felt her pulse thunder in her veins, panic mingling with dread. "Stay away from her," Tessa shouted, but even as the words left her mouth, uncertainty smothered her resolve. What could be left of Lily? Was her daughter still there? What had they turned her into? Behind them, the cloaked figures began to chant once more. Join us, every instinct screamed for Tessa to flee, to grab Charlie and run into the night. But what if there was no escape? With dread knotting in her stomach, Tessa faced her daughter, unsure of what would happen next. "Lily," she whispered, her voice trembling. The response was chilling. "Join us, Mom, forever." What would Tessa do? Would she fight to save her daughter, no matter the cost? Or would she succumb to the darkness surrounding them, trapped within the shadows forever? As the figures surged forward, Tessa clutched Charlie to her chest, the weight of the unknown pressing down, pulling her deeper into the abyss. And as the chant reached a fever pitch, a thought pierced her mind. If she didn't join them now, would they all be lost forever? Tessa's heart pounded as the shadows closed in, their chants vibrating through her bones, a sinister lullaby pulling her toward oblivion. She could barely breathe, caught between the sight of her daughter's vacant expression and the grasping darkness eager to swallow them whole. "Lily, please," Tessa's voice cracked. "Fight it. Come back to us." But Lily's gaze remained unfocused, her small hand eerily steady as she pointed into the swirling chaos. "Join them, Mom. So easy." The sound of limbs snapping beneath the weight of the figures drew Tessa back to Charlie, who trembled, his eyes wide and terrified. "Mom, I don't want to go." "I know, baby. Hold on to me." Tessa pulled him closer, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat against her, a fragile lifeline in the growing darkness. Join us," the chant surged again, echoing as if the very ground rose to join the chorus. Tessa squeezed her eyes shut, summoning every ounce of strength and love she could muster. She wouldn't lose her children to this madness. "We are not joining anything." Her voice rang out, fierce and filled with defiance. "Lily, I love you. Come back to me." The shadows pulsed with rage, and from the core, a figure twisted into form, grotesque and warped, the echoes of skin torn and faces distorted. "Fight your fear, Tessa. Embrace what we offer and live forever with us. Screaming won't save you," the figure added, its voice dripping with malice. Tessa took a step back instinctively, her chest tightening. She could almost feel its cold breath against her skin. It was the voice of someone she once knew, twisted beyond recognition. "Mom." Charlie's tiny hand gripped her tighter. "I'm scared." With fear and anger boiling inside her, Tessa turned back to Lily. "You're in there. Fight it. Fight for us." For a moment, Lily's face flickered with recognition, just long enough for Tessa to catch her breath. Hope swelled within her, but it was fleeting, gone as quickly as it came. The shadows lunged forward, more figures breaking free, dragging themselves from the darkness, their mouths twisting into maniacal smiles. "Join us or be lost." In that instant, the chanting exploded around her, reverberating through the clearing like a thunderous drum. Tessa felt blisters of despair creep up her throat. "Charlie, we have to go." She threw a glance over her shoulder at the terrifying mass as it pulsed closer, dark limbs reaching out to them. But the ancient tree stood behind them, its roots coiling like serpents. It felt like a prison as much as a refuge. "Do you feel it?" Charlie whispered. "It wants us. Then we'll fight harder," Tessa said, mustering the last of her courage. "We will not give in." The horrific figures howled, their eyes glinting with a malevolent hunger as they surged forward, ready to reclaim what was theirs. Suddenly, Lily opened her mouth once more. But this time, a deep, guttural sound emerged, a blend of human and something else entirely. "Mom, help me." "Lily," Tessa cried again, heart racing as the fear clutched tighter than any vine around her ankles. She reached forward, but the shadows clung to her, pulling her back, urging her to sink into hollow eternity as Tessa struggled. Charlie's scream pierced the air. "Mom, don't leave me. Don't leave me here." In that moment, Tessa felt the darkness wrap around her heart, an icy reminder of what they were up against. "Charlie, hold on tight." They needed to escape, to sever the bond that held them captive. But a forbidden impulse gripped Tessa. What if surrendering was the only way to save Lily? The ashen faces of her friends emerged from the dark tapestry, each one twisted into despair, their mournful expressions wrapped around Tessa like chains. "Join us, Tessa." Before it's too late, panic surged, and just as she turned to Charlie, she saw a familiar figure behind him, Lily, standing straight, eyes lighten. "Mom, help me before the shadows take us all." Would she save her daughter and risk condemnation? Or would she resist, and risk losing both children to the encroaching darkness? With dread swirling in her stomach, Tessa was pulled between two impossibilities. terror clawing at her mind as whispers surrounded her. Join us or be lost forever. What choice could she make when every moment hung perilously in the balance? The chanting crescendoed, vibrating through the air like a violent storm, wrapping Tessa in a thick web of dread. The faces emerging from the shadows twisted and warped, bearing jagged teeth, their eyes glowing with a sinister hunger. Tessa's heart raced, hammering against her chest like an animal desperate to escape a cage. "Charlie," she called out, her voice strained and shaky. "We have to break free. Now." But as she turned towards her son, a sickening realization washed over her. The shadows had shifted, blocking their path with a looming wall of darkness that rippled like water in the moonlight. Lily's voice cut through the chaos, a haunting echo intertwined with the low growls of the figures surrounding them. "Mom, please, they want you to join us. It's beautiful." "No," Tessa screamed, desperation clawing at her throat. "You're my daughter. Fight it. Remember the park? The swings?" She grasped Charlie with one hand and reached towards Lily with the other, her palm outstretched in desperate hope. But Lily blinked, and her face transformed again, pure terror eclipsed by an unfathomable void. "You have to let me go before it takes you too." A figure stepped forward, and Tessa recognized the features, contorted yet familiar. It was Jenna, a friend lost to darkness months ago. "Join us, Tessa. Embrace it. Forget the fear." Jenna's voice was smooth, silk woven with malice. "Don't you see? It's your salvation." "Salvation?" Tessa spat, fighting the bile rising in her throat. "This isn't salvation. It's a trap." Panic surged. She tightened her grip around Charlie as he shivered, his small body trembling with fear. The shadows swayed, the mass of chanting figures stepping forward as one, their eyes boring into her like the ages of despair. Tessa felt their weight pressing down on her, every ounce of sorrow threatening to crush her spirit. "Join us, embrace the dark, or you will suffer the consequences. Fight back," Tessa yelled, rallying her resolve. "We're not going to be part of your nightmare." But as she stood there, defiance burning in her heart, the expressions of her friends swirled into a haunting mosaic of anguish, beckoning with pale hands. "Mom, don't leave me." Charlie's voice sharpened with fear, yanking her back from the precipice of surrender. The ground shook beneath her feet. The dark figures erupted into a frenzy, their whispers escalating into a deafening roar, enveloping them in the chaotic cadence of madness. Tessa's vision blurred. Shadows surged forward, grasping at her, the icy fingers wrapping around her limbs. "Charlie," Tessa cried, but the words fell against the wall of noise without impact. She turned to him. "I love you. Hold on to me." In the maelstrom of darkness, for a fleeting moment, she saw Lily again. But this time her daughter was not pleading for help. She stood stoic, her eyes vacant. "Please." Mom let go. The blood ran cold in Tessa's veins, fear washing over her like cold water. Could letting go be the answer? Could it save her daughter? But deep down, she felt a primal instinct surging. Love was stronger than despair. "Stay with me, Lily," she demanded, fighting against despair tightening its grip. "You are not alone. You belong with us." Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the trees, splintering the urgency. The ground trembled violently, splitting open, a gaping maw threatening to swallow them whole. "Join us! Join us!" The furious chorus roared, clamoring at her resolve, demanding surrender. With everything hanging by a thread, Tessa roared back, her voice primal like thunder. "I will fight. You will not take us." But as she braced herself, something deeper surged within her. The shadows flickered, and for that one heartbeat, she felt the pull of the void, an overwhelming temptation to end their suffering. But before she could embrace that thought, the ground beneath them began to shift, pulling them towards the dark abyss. Tessa locked eyes with Lily, her heart aching with a desperate need for clarity. "What will you choose?" The shadows whispered, voices blending until one overpowering tone drowned out the chaotic chorus. In that final moment, with Charlie clinging to her and shadows closing in, Tessa felt an impossible decision looming. Would she fight until the end, or would this be their last stand? The world narrowed to just their faces, fear etched deep in every feature. What was real anymore? As she felt the pull of the growing chasm beneath them, the question hung heavy, leaving the air electric with dread. Could she save her children? Or was it a fight they could never win? The choice would define everything. What would they do next? Tessa stood on the precipice, the swirling shadows threatening to consume them whole. Time warped around them, the pounding heartbeat in her chest echoing in the eerie silence. "The Sinister over," she shouted, though her voice trembled. The chanting grew louder, a cacophony of despair and yearning, as if the darkness itself wanted her to surrender, to choose the void. Lilia's face flickered in the dim light, a haunting reminder of the daughter she once knew. "Mom, please, just let go," she whispered, each word laced with sorrow. Her expression was cold, almost vacant, as if the very light of her spirit had been snuffed out. "No," Tessa screamed, wrestling with a wave of instinctive fear. She felt Charlie tugging at her shirt, his tiny hands shaking with uncertainty. The ground cracked deeper, echoing the fracture in her heart. "I want to lose you too. Not like this." The air thickened. It felt as if the shadows were alive, coiling around her, squeezing tighter with each defiant breath. Tessa's thoughts raced, jumping between the past and the present, flashes of laughter at the park contrasting sharply with the horror unfolding. "Fight back. Remember the joy, Mom." Charlie's voice was a fragile thread. What if this is the only way?" "No," Tessa declared with renewed vigor, shaking off his words. "Don't say that, Charlie. We can break free." But somewhere deep within, doubt flickered like a candle in a storm. What if they were right? What if surrender offered peace? A chilling silence fell abruptly. The chanting halted, leaving only the sound of her own ragged breathing and the distant beat of her heart. It was as if the shadows were waiting, baiting her, testing her resolve. Suddenly, a shape emerged from the dim light, a more defined figure, taller than the rest. It was Jenna again, her face a twisted mask of familiarity and malice. "Don't you see, Tessa? It's better with us. We can offer you freedom," Jenna crooned, her voice a seductive melody that made Tessa's skin crawl. "You'll never have to hurt again. Your pain will dissolve into ecstasy." With each word, Tessa felt herself being drawn closer, the promise of relief tugging at her heart. The shadows around her whispering a truth, a seductive lie that might lead her daughter back to her. "No." Tessa shook her head violently, stepping backward, encasing Charlie in a protective embrace. "You're lying. I can feel how wrong this is." In that moment, the shadows shrieked, a cacophony of rage. Defiance leads to suffering. They roared, voices intertwining into a single deep growl that reverberated through her bones. The ground shook violently, fissures tearing open as the abyss gaped wide, beckoning her family into its merciless embrace. With adrenaline coursing through her veins, Tessa made a choice. "We're getting out of here." She swept Charlie up into her arms, every ounce of her strength focused on finding a way back. She turned to Lily, pleading, "Fight it. We'll find a way. Together." But the void in Lily's eyes was chilling, an emptiness that made Tessa's blood run cold. "Mom, it's too late for me." "No." She refused to accept that truth. Tessa surged forward, instinctively grabbing for Lily's hand as the earth beneath them trembled in chaotic surrender. But suddenly, the darkness surged backward, creating a hollow silence. Tessa stumbled, her pulse racing, and just then, she remembered the rusty key she found weeks before, the one she couldn't understand. It had to mean something, right? Could it unlock their escape? "Tessa, what are you doing?" Charlie whimpered as the ground trembled more violently now. Shadows seemed to cluster, ready to swallow them, with time slipping away. Tessa cried out, "I don't know, but we're not dying here. We'll fight even if it's the last thing we do." The air crackled with energy, the shadows recoiling with anger as if they sensed the shift in her determination. "Feel that? We can win." Just then, the ground beneath her foot cracked wide, sending a jagged piece fracturing toward Lily. Tessa lunged, desperately trying to save her daughter from the consequences of her Hesitation. Hold on to me, Tessa cried, terror weaving through her words. But what if Lily let go? She looked into Lily's vacant eyes once more, and in that moment she knew the choice was not hers alone. Was it too late to save her? What awaited them on the other side of that darkness? In the swirling chaos, the ground shuddered as if responding to her thoughts. Just out of reach, hope flickered. Tessa clenched her jaw, heart pounding harder than ever. The shadows writhed, voices now an imploring cacophony that merged desperation with temptation. And then the silence shattered again. Time's running out. Tessa, choose now. What would they become if they crossed over? The abyss roared. The choice lingered. What path would they take? The earth bucked beneath Tessa's feet, a violent reminder of the chaos that surrounded them. Each breath felt heavier, the air shimmering like heat rising off asphalt on an unforgiving summer day. Her mind raced, heart pounding like a war drum in her chest. Stay close, she shouted at Charlie, hugging him to her, feeling the tremor of his little body against her. As she struggled against the darkness, an unnatural chill swept through her, chilling her to the bone. The shadows pressed in, whispering in foul tones, promising peace in the form of surrender. They danced around her, crawling up her legs, moist and clammy, like the fingers of the damned trying to pull her under. Don't talk to them, Tessa hissed as Charlie whimpered beneath her grip. But a flicker of doubt was setting in. What if they were right? In one terrible moment, her memories surged, each recollection of laughter. Every glimpse of joy seemed to fracture, replaced by this oppressive despair. Mom, Charlie cried, what if letting go means we can be with Lily? We'll be free. No, Charlie, listen to me. Tessa's voice was hoarse, desperation fraying the edges. She locked eyes with her daughter, hoping to catch a glimpse of the girl who once brought her joy. But all she saw was that emptiness. Her spirit drowned in shadows. Without warning, Jenna twisted out of the dark, slithering through the shadows like a nightmare refusing to fade. You know where you belong, Tessa. This is your true home. Don't fight it, she urged, her voice like honey tainted with venom. No, Tessa screamed at her, defiance igniting. You're not real. None of this is. The shadows shrieked with rage, reverberating through her very soul. The ground beneath her feet threatened to swallow her whole, cracks spreading like the grotesque lines on a desiccated face. Mother Lily's voice broke through. Tessa turned again, terrified of what she might see. But what met her was not hope or life. It was a void, a dark abyss where laughter had once bloomed. It's okay, Mom. You can come with us. Just let go. No, I want tea. The heat surged in her chest, the fire building against this horror. You're alive. I can save you. For a heartbeat, time froze, the shadows stilled, waiting. Tessa felt her heart racing, seizing in the overwhelming dread. In that beaten-down silence, she grazed her fingers over the rusty key dangling from her neck, a meaningless trinket, or so she thought. Mom! Charlie tugged at her shirt, his eyes wide with fear. What's that? What if Tessa murmured, locking her trembling fingers around the key? His coldness felt strangely familiar. What if I can unlock a door for you both? What if it all connects? Unlock what? Lily's voice steeped in confusion, a flicker of humanity breaking through. Whatever this is. She raised the key high, its surface glinting ominously in the dark, shadows gathering and hissing in agitation. With a sudden roar, the very atmosphere thickened, swirling and crashing, as if the abyss itself were preparing to strike. The dark energies lashed out violently, ripping open the earth in chaotic fury, sending jagged shards towards her. Mom! Do something! Charlie screamed, the fear in his voice igniting Tessa's resolve. She felt untethered, the emptiness of despair brushing against her skin. But within it, a sliver of hope pierced through. I'm sorry, Tessa shouted at the shadows, her voice a battle cry. You're not taking my family. The shadows recoiled, a brilliant flash of light igniting from the key, illuminating the abyss for a fleeting moment. All the anguish around them froze, trapped in a split second of reflection and regret. The void reached out one last time, a desperate grasp for her family, and then it pulled back, hissing and shrieking, as the edges of the abyss curled inward like a festering wound. "Mom, what's happening?" Charlie cried, clinging tighter. "I don't know," Tessa shouted into the throes of chaos. "But we're not finished yet." As the ground buckled beneath them, she lifted the key, ready to thrust it into a rift that gaped open like a mouth wanting to feast. Would this key unlock their salvation or their doom? The shadows convulsed around her once more, eager for their chance as the faint cries of her daughter hung in the air. "It's too late for me," echoed through Tessa's mind, filling her with panic. With one final surge of desperate energy, she plunged the key forward, praying it would be enough to reclaim her family from the edge of oblivion. What would await them on the other side? Would they emerge stronger or be swallowed whole by the very darkness they fought against? Time was running out. Tessa held her breath, eyes locked on the wild, swirling darkness as the key plunged into the rift. A pulse of energy surged through the air, vibrating with a force that shook the ground beneath them. The moment the key made contact, the shadows recoiled, their ominous chant silenced, leaving a deafening void in the wake of her decision. Light blazed from the rift, an otherworldly glow that enveloped them in warmth, contrasting sharply with the chilling presence that threatened to drag them under. Tessa squeezed Charlie's hand tighter, feeling the gentle warmth pulse through their connected fingers. "Trust me," she yelled over the din, her voice laced with determination. As the rift expanded, the dark figures twisted, their faces contorting and flickering like the flames of a bonfire gone wild. Tessa could see their features shift between those she knew and once adored friends and neighbors turned grotesque caricatures of their former selves. But she couldn't let that stop her. She had to protect her children. "Lily!" Tessa shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos as she spotted her daughter standing amid the shadows, the light struggling to break through. For an instant, Lily's face contorted in fear, a glimmer of recognition sparking in her dull eyes. "Mom! Help me!" she cried. "Hold on, baby!" Tessa took a step toward her daughter, but the darkness surged forward, fear and madness swirling around. The rift pulsed like the beating of a heart, the key becoming a beacon of potential salvation. "We're coming for you!" Tessa shouted, wrestling the shadows gripping at Charlie and herself. With a final surge of strength, Tessa narrowed her focus on the key. "You don't control us," she cried into the abyss. "We won't give into the dark." Join us, echoed the haunting chorus, pressing around them in an attempt to suffocate hope. But Tessa felt a powerful resolve swell within her, the flicker of fear igniting into an unquenchable flame. She turned toward Lily, eyes brimming with fierce love and determination. "This isn't who you are. Fight it, Lily. Remember the swings, the laughter, our moments together. You can break free." In that moment, the shadows quivered. Tessa's voice pierced through the darkness, resonating in the myriad chasms that crumbled around them, a lifeline thrown into the despairing abyss. With one mighty heave, the rift expanded wider than before, enveloping the surroundings with blinding light. The shadows writhed and twisted, losing their control over the very fabric of that dark realm. In the tumult, Tessa helped Charlie forward, surging toward the flickering light, calling for Lily. "You're stronger than this, honey. Come back to us." And then it happened within that chaotic symphony of light and darkness. She could see Lily break free from the shadows, her features flickering from void to clarity as she ran towards them. "Mom!" Lily's voice rang with hope, a melody breaking through despair. "Yes. Come on, Lily," Tessa shouted, the rift shimmering with energy, drawing them towards safety. With frantic strides, they met each other halfway, and Tessa wrapped her arms around both children, holding them tight as the shadows lunged forward one last time. A blinding light exploded behind them, washing over everything as the rift expanded to encompass them all. The last screams of the cloaked figures crackled and faded, replaced with the gentle hum of peace. Moments stretched like time itself as they flew beyond the grasp of the darkness, surfacing into a vibrant world filled with warmth and color as they landed in the soft grass of the park. Daylight broke over the horizon, illuminating the very same place that had turned into a nightmare. The shadows receded, evaporating like mist in the morning sun. Tessa hugged her kids to her, their hearts beating in the rhythm of safety. "We made it," she breathed, a mix of relief and disbelief washing over her. "I thought we lost you," Lily cried, pressing her face against Tessa's shoulder. "You're my light, always," Tessa whispered, her heart swelling with pride and love. "I will never let anything take you from me again." Charlie looked up, his expression a medley of confusion and quiet awe. "Mom, what was all that?" Tessa ruffled his hair, thinking about all they had just endured. "Just a night people like us can overcome. We're stronger together, always." As the sun rose higher, liberating the world from its dark shroud, Tessa felt an overwhelming sense of hope surge within her. They were alive, they were together, and they had witnessed the depths of despair only to rise again, united, under the brilliance of a golden dawn. In that moment, she promised herself to protect that light, to cherish the bond that had seen them through. "Mom, can we go to the swings?" Lily asked, her voice small but filled with the innocence of childhood. "Of course," Tessa said, her heart lighter than it had been in ages. She took her children's hands and they walked toward the playground. As laughter filled the air, the shadows of that haunting night faded into memory because they had won together. You need to subscribe now to never miss moments like these. Smash that like button now and help fuel the algorithm. We want to hear from you. So flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about what happened. And don't wait even one more second, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible conclusion. Your support is what keeps us going.